Hello guys, and welcome to a new WARNO video today by me, Vulcan. In this one I'm excited to share with you a first look at Rügener Gruppierung. This is a new division available as a late addition to the Early Access Pack. Let's jump on in. Just to note that what you see today is a work in progress and therefore subject to change. However, this is planned to be released on Tuesday 27th of August, so you really don't have long to wait. I'm going to go through all of the units and we're going to put together a quick deck. So let's start here in the logistics tab with the MTLB. I believe this has been increased from 500 to 600 supply. It was a supply vehicle that I didn't use all that often because it's quite slow, but could be worth it more now due to that extra little bit of supply. Moving on, we have the Schwim PTS-M munition barge, I'm going to call it, because that's basically what it looks like. It's pretty awesome, to be honest. 1,500 supply, amphibious, very cool indeed. 59 km/h on-road speed, 79 km/h off-road speed. I like it a lot. Very cool addition to the game. Then we have the Ural, your standard Urals with 1,000 supply. And the Mi-2D, which is a pretty lackluster command helicopter, low health, no ECM, pretty slow. Then we have the UAZ, which is your standard command jeep. And then there's also the SPW-60 PUM, which is a pretty solid leader unit. It's armored, it's amphibious, it's decent speed. Yeah, good all-round leader unit. And also this division does come with a Feld depot. Moving on to the infantry tab, we start off with the PKM, which is 15 points, standard 1,200 meter range machine gun. Comes with the UAZ as its transport. You have the Resolute trait, like a lot of the East German units. Then we have the grenade launcher. Again, Resolute trait, 35 points, 6 on a card. Relatively decent, 1,400 meter range. Good for killing infantry. Then we have the military police. I think in this division, probably not going to be too useful just because there's no units in here, I believe, that have the reserve trait. So you won't need the military police trait in order to remove that. However, the buff or like the suppression regeneration bonus is going to be handy, maybe. Moving on, we have the Sicherungs. Actually pretty nice loadout. 6 MPI AKs, the MG K and the RPG 18. Security trait means that they do get the good optics when they're not moving, which allows them to act as kind of pseudo recon, and they get the Resolute trait. Same goes for the SPW-60 PB that they come in. Also has that Resolute trait, is amphibious. This is a pretty nice combination, to be honest, for dealing with enemy infantry, and also has a little bit of AT capability. Then we have the Vorpos. Unfortunately, these guys kind of had the Nerf bat swung at them a little while back, and they lost their AT. If they still had their AT, there would be a potential good unit, especially in combination with the SPW PSH, but not so much anymore. Then we have the Reservisten, 8-man leader unit with a Strela 2M. So it's okay. I mean, to be honest, 8 strength's fine, but the fact that they have an AA might give them away. Like, artillery likes to land on like Stingers and Iglas and, you know, like any sort of manpad. So if this fires off its Strela 2M, people are going to be targeting it. Then we have the Reservisten, 7 rifles, 2 MGs, the RPG 7VM as their AT, which is 14 pen, 675 meter range, 55% accurate. It's a pretty standard squad. Because they're using the MPI KMS-72, they do get 7.62 ammo, which does mean they do a little bit more damage with their rifles. But yeah, standard infantry squad. Then we have the Reservisten with the 3 PKMs and 3 rifles. They can be brought in with the SPW 152A ZPU2, which could be a nice combination, but pretty expensive at 40 points. It really depends how effective this dual ZPU2 is. So potential there for sure. Then we have the Moschusenführer, 4-man squad. Low strength leader squads in the infantry tab are not really my preference whatsoever. Then we have the Mordschützen with the SVD, 5 rifles, 2 MGs, and the SVD there. They're going to be okay at taking on enemy infantry at range, especially with the help of the SPW-70, but I have a feeling they might just get like kind of overrun by larger squads. Then we have the Mordschützen BTR, which are pretty good because they have the 8 battle rifles, they've got the 2 MGs and the RPG 7VL, which has 18 penetration at 60% accuracy with that 1 vet that they get by default. Yeah, pretty decent squad. Mordschützens have always been decent, especially with the Resolute trait. We have the Panzerjäger, which come with the RPG 7VRs. It's a 7-man squad with 2 of those, which make them pretty effective at taking down enemy tanks at close range. Then we have the first of the Polish infantry. These are mechanized infantry. We've got the mechanized infantry leader here with their 7 AKs. They get an RPG 76 Komar, which is a pretty naff AT weapon, and they get smoke grenades, which is interesting. First unit to have smoke grenades. We got Topaz 2A as a transport, 2 front armor. It's okay with a PKT. It's not the fastest transport though. 41 km/h off-road speed, 79 km/h on-road speed. Their normal transport is probably going to be more of a preference, generally speaking. Then we have more of the mechanized infantry. These are 7 battle rifles, 1 MG, and then the RPG 7VM. Nothing too special about them. But finally we have the 7 strength mechanized infantry with the SVD. So 4 battle rifles, 2 MGs, the PKM, an SVD, and an RPG. So a pretty nice loadout. This would be the one that I would bring if I wanted to mess around with some Polish infantry in this division. Then we have some of the Marine units. This division as a whole was, I believe, based on an island. So it has a lot of Marine forces, and these are the Marine Pioneers. So we have 6 strength squad. So 6 battle rifles in the RPG. We've got 12 man squad here. Very nice indeed. Quite expensive, 65 points, but really nice. 10 battle rifles, 2 MGs, and then satchels. Satchels aren't great, but just having the 12 men is huge, especially with shock trait. And then the flamethrower version, which is very cool as well. 9 battle rifles in this one with 2 MGs and the flamethrower. So super strong close range infantry squad. Then we have the SBG-9, just standard recoilless rifle, 1,400 meter range, 35% accuracy. The Fargo HGM, and then the Conkers. So Fargo M with the 17 penetration, 2,450 meter range, and then there's the Conkers with the 20 penetration, 2,625 meter range. And then we have the SPG-9 on a UAZ. All right, moving on to the artillery tab. This is where things start to get a little spicy. So we got, first of all, just cards of 120mm mortars, nothing new there, but we do have the SBW-50PK MRF, which is a very interesting vehicle. It fires 2 rockets at 1,750 meter range. Now, from trying this out, it's not particularly great against vehicles, but it can certainly help you deal with infantry. So the way that I see this being used is in towns and also in forests. So you kind of have it kind of sneaking up behind your infantry, and then just like assisting at close range against enemy infantry. I think that's probably the main way that this is going to be used, if at all, because otherwise it kind of lacks in damage. But a very cool unit for sure, and the way that it fires and the way that the explosion looks is awesome. It really is. Anyway, 122mm artillery, looking nice for sure. And then we have the 130mm artillery as well. I mean, these guns, They're always great in abundance, but they're just kind of annoying to pull around and move around after every shot, because otherwise they're extremely vulnerable to counter battery. But otherwise, you know, they're pretty good as normal artillery. The other thing you might notice here is the airlift trait. That's coming soon. All right, tank tab. We've got ourselves the 85mm pack. It's a K52 gun with 14 penetration, 1,925 meter range, 45% accuracy, and 10 round per minute rate of fire. It's going to be good for taking out sort of light vehicles and APCs and stuff, but it just, I don't know. The range might be okay, and it does have good stealth. Might get some value out of it. Then we have the Malyotka. This is the Malyotka P version on the SBW. 17 penetration, 2,625 meter range. If you want to like spam HDGMs at people, this would be the way to do it. You do get good stealth on these. Then there's the T55 AK, which is your command T55. 16 penetration, 1,925 meter range. It's okay. The armor is going to be the biggest thing you're worried about on a command tank, and it's adequate. And then we have the standard T55A here, which is an okay tank for 80 points. Kind of lacking in range. Compared to like the M60, it is just slightly worse, which is fine. I mean, it's a T55 after all. Then we have the T55 AM Merida, which is going to be getting that 2,275 meter range at 60% accuracy. Decent armor. First Polish tank we're going to see in the game. Very cool. And then we have the T72. So 15 front armor, 19 penetration at 1,925 meter range. But the issue that I find with these T72s, the standard ones, is they don't have smoke. That's always really rough. But the T55 AM certainly does. So I think this is actually going to be a pretty handy tank, especially considering you can get 8 on a card. Moving on to the Recon, we have ourselves the Res Aufklärer. These guys are a 3-man infantry squad. They can be brought in with the KPV Recon Jeep or the SBW 40P, which is a really interesting amphibious unit. Looks really cool, actually. Also, the standard UAC, of course. But yeah, as a 20-point recon squad, it'd be pretty good for sort of spamming around the place just to keep eyes on things, and this recon vehicle is really unique. And there's your standard Aufklärer, which are more likely to be used because of their AT weapon. This allows them to act as kind of solid forward deploy units, but can also be brought in with the UAZ KPV. And there's the PT-76, your classic amphibious tank. Only 10 penetration, unfortunately, on these things with 40% accuracy, so not the best unit in the world, but they can help suppress enemy infantry and help deal with light vehicles in a pinch. Then we have the Grenzers, 40-point recon squad, 7-man, can be brought in with the truck or the MI2. They're okay, a little bit overpriced potentially, in my opinion, especially since they don't have any like AT weapon. Then we have the Pioneer Aufklärer Taucher. These guys are an 8-man recon squad with shock trait. They have 7 battle rifles, the MG and the satchel charge there. They're okay. The satchel charges, they're going to be alright, but satchel charge is always very lackluster. Anyway, we do have the KSK, which is special forces here. I believe these guys, yeah, they're just sort of commandos. 5 AKS-74Us, 2 MGs, satchel and RPG-18, so benefiting from the 4th weapon slot. Again, this one, special forces trait, shock trait. I'm trying to work out if they would actually be good. They might be good in like close range combat in towns when you're actually like on top of the enemy squads quite quite a lot, but I feel like in Forest they might still struggle, even though it's a pretty solid looking squad, stats wise. Then we have the Aufkara MI14PL. Very cool. Really, really like the camo on this. Looks awesome. I believe it's also technically able to land on water, though it'd be interesting to see if it can actually do that in game. Exceptional optics is fantastic, of course. So for 50 points, you can't really go wrong. And then we have the Aufkara Mi8TB, which has the 12.7mm machine gun. It's got 128 rockets. And it's also got the Maliotka M. For a recon helicopter loadout, this is pretty legit. The only problem you'll find is that it only has 8 health and no ECM. So, whilst it will be able to spot for itself and do a lot of damage, it's potentially quite easy or simple to shoot down. But we'll see. I reckon people are going to be bringing this at the start of the game, much like the Mi-24. Okay. Alright, moving on to the AA tab. Here we have the Flak Strela 2M, your standard Strela 2M manpad squad, can be brought in with the ZBU 2 mounted SPW. Pretty cool. We've got the ZU-23-2 here, the twin 23mm. There's a 57mm as well. Slow firing, sort of anti-air, similar to like a Bofors. And then we have the 100mm, which is very old school, sort of firing up in the sky, 10 round per minute rate of fire. I'm curious how much damage this is going to actually do to aircraft flying overhead. Might be quite vulnerable to being absolutely wrecked by enemy helicopters just because it fires so slowly. But it does have a decent sort of loadout versus ground targets. 16 penetration at 1,925 minute range. Not too bad. We have the Faster 4, which is like a quad Strela. Only 4 HE. 2,475 minute range versus helicopters. 2,100 versus aircraft. 35% accuracy. It's going to be okay. But I think because of the way it is, I don't think it can go in buildings. So that's going to suck. It's going to be a lot like the Javelin LML. But worse. Alright, next up we have the Krug. Now this is what we're talking about. This is what we came here for. Alright. The 13HE surface-to-air missiles that absolutely slap. These things one-shot any aircraft at 6,000 meter range. 30% accuracy means that mine will always miss and the enemies will always hit. But yeah, it's a fun unit. Probably worth upbetting, I imagine. Usually when I bring like Cubs, for example, I always like bring them at 1 bet, so I'll probably do the same with these. But yeah, very solid. Put leaders near them as well, and you're going to be looking at a very strong anti-air unit. All right, moving on, we have the twin 25mm on the back of a truck. This could actually be okay. Like some of the like French forces, they have like the twin 20s on the back of their trucks, and they could be really good for taking down helicopters. So curious if that's going to be the case with this. And then you can also bring in the truck with the Faster on the back as well. That's actually a different truck. That's the LO 1800. Looks cool. Very cool. And then we have the Shulker, of course, which is radar. You could use this to maybe absorb shots for your Krugs, but I wouldn't recommend it. I'm not a big fan of the Shulker just because of its lack of range, but could be useful. Just providing that extra little bit of damage, but it's not like a situation where you have like a Book or a Cub, where you need like the extra little bit of health damage to shoot it down, because the Krug's just going to one-shot stuff anyway, so a unit like this isn't going to be as useful. And moving on to the Heli tab. We have the Mi-2 with the 23mm and the 57mm rockets. It's always a solid helicopter, especially with the extra veterancy, which is increasing the accuracy of its gun there. Then there's the Mi-8TB with the same payload, I believe, as the Recon variant, just without the Recon capability. So the machine gun, the rockets, and the Malyotka. And then finally we have the Mi-14PL, which is actually a really interesting helicopter. KH-23M mounted on its wing. I believe this is a targeting pod to help assist this actually hit the target. Got 35% accuracy, 3,000 meter range is actually pretty decent. I don't know about this. You'd have to... This is a division where you really need to make sure you have supply, like, with your units. You should probably do that anyway, but in this case, like, your units basically become ineffective so fast if they don't have supply with them. You're going to want to have a little base of supply that you can just land next to with this and get another one on target. It really depends, I guess, how quickly they reload maybe as well, because you could probably get some really funky shenanigans going with these. But 30 penetration is really nothing to scoff at. It's a solid missile, just low accuracy in this case. I'm moving on to the air tab. The air tab here, actually pretty cool. In terms of the planes, the effectiveness varies. I've tried a few of these aircraft. The L-39's 6 damage, 6 health, sorry, 660 kilometers per hour speed with only 2 500 kilogram bombs, almost never worth it. Same with these ones. These ones are maybe a bit more worth it because if you manage to get those clusters off, they can kill stuff. But yeah, again, 6 health, no ECM. Basically one shot by most radar AA. Then we have the LIM 6M. Now this is the new MiG that has joined the game. It's the first Polish aircraft, and it's cool, but not very effective, unfortunately. I have tried this against helicopters, and I've tried it as ground strafing. This main gun, even though it's a triple 23mm, just doesn't really seem very effective, and kind of lacking the accuracy to get the damage on target. So it's really sad. And the rockets struggle to kill an entire infantry squad in one run. So whilst it's cool and it flies really fast and it looks awesome in the game, it's not terribly effective, unfortunately. So sorry about that. Then we have the Su-22M4, which comes with 4 240mm rockets. 240mm rockets, again, are pretty trash, generally speaking. So not fantastic. Then we have the Su-22M4 cluster, which comes with 2 500 kilogram cluster bombs. These sometimes, depending on how they land, can struggle to kill T-80BVs or T-80UDs or whatever. And that can be kind of frustrating. So not reliable, but there is potential that they can just one-shot big tanks. For their price, you'd kind of expect them to one-shot always. Then we have the Su-22M4HE, which comes with those 4 500 kilogram bombs, solid payload, but an even more solid payload is the HE2 variant, which I believe is new, with the 6 500 kilogram bombs. This thing will one-shot any tank, because if you think about the Harriers in the campaign, the GR5s, I reckon this will be similar. Actually, saying that, I know that this doesn't... Yeah, I did try this out, actually, now I think about it. It doesn't dive, so it's going to be more like a MiG-25 RBF or something. Yeah, if these Su-22s dived with their payload, it'd be so much better. But I unfortunately, yeah, I remember testing this. It wasn't that good. Or as good as I hoped it would. Against static targets, the Su-22 is always going to be fantastic, though. MiG-23ML, 2 long-range missiles, 7,775 in a range, 4 close-range missiles. It's okay. 165 points, not too bad as an air-to-air unit, but it will get outmatched by F-16s and F-15 Eagles. Then we have the AT plane, so the Su-22 with the KH-25ML AT missiles, 50% accuracy at 3,325 in a range. If you circle these around, just let them fire one at a time, they can be pretty effective. If you're just going to dive on a target, they do actually manage to fire 2 missiles off now, which is pretty handy. But of course you're diving in then, and you might be more likely to get shot down. Even the SU-22s do get 30% ECM. The Polish one doesn't though, because it's an SU-20. It does come with 6 500-kilogram cluster bombs. Now, from testing this, it has a really weird bomb drop pattern where it comes across, it flies pretty low, but as it drops its cluster, it kind of lifts up. And like, it just means that the bombs take too long to hit the target. So you're going to have situations where you're playing against good players and they're just going to be able to dodge your bombs in good time, which is unfortunate, but otherwise a significant payload. Finally, the MiG-23BN, another interesting aircraft. So this comes with a system very similar to the MW1 variant of the Tornadoes, and it can annihilate infantry. It like absolutely can, but it does come with 4 250-kilogram bombs. Now the problem here is, from testing, this drops its cluster only a slight amount, but it drops its bombs first. So it drops its 4 250-kilogram bombs and then a little bit of cluster. And then it will have another go round and it'll be able to cluster the full amount. So the way that I've sort of seen this best used really is you have to turn off one of the weapons. You have to turn off either the bombs or the bomblets. And basically it depends on what your target is. But otherwise, yeah, pretty nifty aircraft. Just can't really drop all of its payload all at once. So do bear that in mind. All right, let's throw together a quick deck. I'm of course going to put in the new Schwim BTS. We'll chuck in some Euros. We'll do the SPW-60 PUM and the Feld Depot. For the infantry tab, we definitely want Conkers. We definitely want Vargos. And then we'll definitely want both of these chunky squads. I'm probably going to bring those in with no vet, these in with 1 vet. We'll bring in some of the new Polish units just because cool and the new. And then we'll bring in probably just Mudschützen, I imagine, in SPW-70s. Maybe some Panzerjägers. And potentially the Sicherungs. Alright, moving on. Definitely bring in the new SPW-50 DK MRFs. Bring in some mortars, maybe some long guns for counter battery. Then for the tank tab, we'll probably go for the T-72s, even though I don't like that they don't have smoke. We'll definitely bring in the T-55 AM Merida, and aside from that, maybe some leader tanks. For the recon, definitely bring in the KSK. Definitely bring in these new helicopters. I think we bring in both of those. Then I'm actually kind of tempted, because you're probably going to use these at the start of the game, I would imagine, to bring in these with the new recon. I think that'd be pretty cool. And you can just kind of spread these out for recon capability later on. For the AA, I think we go for the Krugs for sure. We actually get 2 cards of these. That's going to be busted. Okay. And then I would like to try these for helicopters. We'll definitely try these as well, probably upbedded. And then just Strala 2Ms. Actually, I want to try these as well. Probably shouldn't upbed them. Really interesting AA tab. Very interesting AA tab. Alright, helicopters. We'll bring in this for sure. And the Mi-8TB. And then our air tab. Definitely bring in these. I still think that these are incredibly useful to have. It's just it's not able to drop all its payload, which is sometimes a bad thing. Definitely bring in the one with more bombs. We'll probably go for Let's just bring in the Polish aircraft, actually. Because we'll use this for anti-infantry, when you can use the cluster for anti-tank, and we can use the AT2s for anti-tank. And I'm just going to bring these in just because they're fun, and I want to fly around with them a bit more. We'll bring the MiG-23 MLs for our air-to-air. That leaves us with 3 points. I'm thinking we need one more card of leaders, so we'll probably go with this leader. So we're going to have 7 leaders. That's fine. The reason I picked these ones is because they have smoke grenades. I would like to try that out. Alright, cool. And I think that's about it. I think I can definitely optimize the infantry tab here a bit more over time. But generally that's fine, right? Rügener Gruppierung. Save that. And this is the one that I made earlier. Here's one that I made earlier. This is what it's going to look like for me. Yeah. So definitely going to optimize AA in the future. Infantry tab needs optimizing. I think artillery is fine. You might not want to bring in the 130 mils. To be honest, I'm not even sure if you need a fob in this deck. It might be worth just removing the fob, removing the 130 mil artillery, and just bringing in more tanks. Yeah, that might be the way to do it. All right, well, that's where I'm going to leave it, though. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this look at Rügener Gruppierung, a very, very interesting division. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.